Greetings and salutations, my name is JW608, and today we're talking more about stamps. More specifically, we're talking about perforations. Let's see here, let's get us a more interesting view. There it is. This is a stamp. In fact, it's a stamp about stamp collecting. The irony. Anyway, perforations, they're the little bits here, the little tabs and holes. You might be asking, well, what is a perforation? Why is it there? Is it to make the stamp look pretty? Well, I think it does, but that's not its primary purpose. Let's see. Let's grab, this block of Martha Washington's. This is a plate number block. That's for another day. But in the printing process, publishing process, while they was making the stamps, they decided, it's a pain to cut all these things apart, because originally that's what was done. They would put the stamps out and merchants were horrible and all that jazz. So they decided to, somebody decided to print them in a sheet and punch a bajillion little holes to make the stamp easier to tear out. I don't know how many people watching this remember the time when you had to tear out your own stamps, but this was the way to go. And the little holes here made it easier to tear out without having to get scissors or anything like that, and separate the stamps. In this case, whoever sent this letter needed 4 1.5-cent stamps, so they did not separate them. Well, they did from the main sheet, and then stuck the whole thing on there. It's probably a stamp collector trying to make a plate number block, but we'll talk about those another day. Let's see here. I have with me a sheet of stamps. Oh, you're upside down. Hold on. There we go. Here is a complete sheet. Oh, camera don't like that. There we go. All right. So, this U.S. stamp, along with 25 cents of additional U.S. postage, is equivalent to the F stamp rate. And see, they just did this huge sheet of stamps and perforated them, USPS 1990. And so it would be easier to tear out a stamp when you need it. I love this stamp. The story behind it's great, but that's for another day. Oh, this, by the way, is my favorite stamp, favorite U.S. stamp. It is Scott number 2521, I think. And I was able to get a whole sheet, and my camera's not big enough to show it. Looks like plate A66. Oh, I've not gone through it to see if there were any errors. But that's for another day. Let's see. But as time advanced, as time is wont to do, we got into the era of self-adhesives. And they didn't really need the, oh, come on. Wrong button. There we go. There. They didn't need the perforations because they're self-adhesive. They're like little stickers, but we still have them. The ridges there. In fact, on this stamp, which conveniently is still on paper. Why is it still on paper? Well, because it's hard to see the black stamp against a black background. That, and I have like 300 of these, and I didn't want to soak this one off, because I find removing stamps from paper to be annoying. So I do it as little as possible. But I'm going to go with the first reason. But these are not really fake perfs or simulated perfs, so they're die cuts. Here, oh, I know. Ooh, let me hit the camera. This sheet of wild orchids from 2020. That was this year. All right, let's readjust my brightness. There we go. These are modern U.S. stamps. Well, the others, these are also modern U.S. stamps, but these are contemporary. Well, those were contemporary too. These are the newer stamps. There we go. And it's basically just a sheet of stickers that they've die cut. Oh, some are starting to come up here to look like perfs, so they look like stamps. They aren't absolutely positively necessary, but they have them. All right, so and these are die cut perfs. We still call them perforations, I guess, out of tradition. So you have your regular perfs, your die cuts. There's also a type of perf being short for perforation, by the way. The perforation. Yeah, sometimes I say perforation because I'm not very smart. It's perforation. But there is another type that I do not have any examples of called a rotary perf. And it's was made with, I believe, a rotary wheel would actually cut little cut. I don't have any. I've never seen an example of one, but no, there is another type of perfs out there. Actually, probably several that I'm not aware of, but these are the most two common. The only two examples I have in my collection. Well, that's not entirely true, because I have an imperforate stamp. Imperforate stamps are stamps without perfs. Oh, give me a break. I'm going to have to get a better background, one that my camera actually likes. There we go. Here is an imperf stamp. This one is unintentionally imperforated. The the USA $6.45 stamp. I don't remember its Scott number. But this was a printing error. It's supposed to have the die cuts on the sides, but for whatever reason, the stamp doesn't, and it is unused. Was cut out of a sheet, I believe. I bought this one from a reputable stamp dealer. So oh, sorry. So sometimes you will see that are imperforate, that are supposed to be perforated, and there are older stamps, particularly older stamps, that were not perforated, but instead were cut out by hand as part of the manufacturing, or not always by hand, sometimes on machine, but they were cut out like such as part of the printing process. So if you find a stamp that's supposed to have perforations and doesn't, you might have something valuable, or you might have a forgery. In this case, this one is not exceptionally valuable. It's worth more than face, but I keep it as a novelty. Alright, so you may be wondering, oh, that's nice. What do I need to know about perfs? Ah, there we go. Sometimes we can use the perforations as identifiers. Where is my catalog? I had a catalog. What did I do with it? I lost my cat. Oh, there it is. We're going to go use our trusty Mystic again. Mystic stamp catalog. Let me adjust, because my camera doesn't like Mystic stamp catalog for whatever reason. There we go. Until it goes off again. Let's see here. There's a good one. Ah, there we go. Got this lovely set here. The series of 1902 to 03, perforated 12. See here. Here's 1906 to 1908, imperforate. Here's similar, but perforated 12. What does it mean, perforated 12? Ah, that's where this guy comes in. This is a perf gauge. This was my very first perf gauge. I believe in one of the earlier episodes, I showed a perf gauge. This one is my perf gauge. It's actually made of metal. I think I paid $1 for it or something like that. And this will help you identify the perfs of a stamp. Well, let's see, how do we use the thing? Well, first of all, you're going to need a stamp. And we're going to need to I need some better way to do this. Anyway, you'll notice on your perf gauge, and this is not the only type. In fact, I'll show you my favorite perf gauge later. Actually, in a few moments, I'll show you my favorite perf gauge. Let's adjust the lighting there just a bit. There we go. Well, that got horribly dark. There we go. All right. You'll notice these numbers. 12, 12 and a half, 13, 13 and a half, 14. These are the perfs. So when it said in the catalog perf 12, the perf should line up with this line. I have no clue what the perfs on this one are supposed to be. So we'll start with 12 and see what it is. Now, in this particular type, you want to line up the perf tabs with the tabs there and the values with the values, you can see this is not perf 12 because it doesn't line up. 12.5? No. So let's go down. Let's try 11. 11's a popular for, yep, there we go. US Stamps 11 is a popular gauge. All right, and see how it matches up with 11. Now, sometimes it might be just a little off. They sort of round them. So anything between 10.5 and 11 will probably round up to 11, or round down to 10. In the catalogs, they typically round the perfs to a convenient number. And once you get heavy into an issue being a stamp, you'll find that some have different varieties and all that jazz. Now you may be saying, well, that's nice. What if I can't put my stamp on this perf gauge? Ah, that's what these markings on the side are for. For example, let's see our flag stamp here. Can't line that up with anything. And this is a die cut. You can measure die cuts like this as well. That's what these markings on the side are for. And bring it up, and that is awful close to an 8. Maybe maybe an 8.5. I'm gonna call that an 8. See, there's a bit of guesswork, and you'll have to look in the catalog and see. Yeah, that looks pretty good as an 8, I think. It's not an exact science, at least not with this gauge. And now, if you measure one and all of a sudden, oh, this is a 9.5 or a 14 or something really off, there's a chance that you either got yourself an error, a counterfeit, or a forgery. We'll talk more about freaks, errors, forgeries, and counterfeits and all that good stuff later on. But no, if something's like way off, it's something's up, something special about the stamp, good or bad, something special about it. And now, let's see, where was I going? You can use the side markings to measure if something, a stamp on paper, on a cover, if it's in an album and you don't want to remove it, you can just use the markings on the side there. Although that is not my favorite use. And this is, whoops, ouch, just dropped my stamp tongs. Now, US stamps are not alone in their perfs. Here's a French stamp of a castle, it looks like. And you notice it has perfs up. It has a missing perf. That's where a perf is torn off. That, depending on the issue and where it's from, that can dramatically affect the value. And conditions and all that. Generally, you want all your perfs. That one's kind of missing, unless it's flipped over. Oh, no, it's just flipped over. There we go. There. Pretend it's all good. Still a bent perf, and that's going to hurt this value. Of course, the gigantic tear in the side probably doesn't help the value of the stamp anyway. But, oh, come on. Let's drop down our exposure again. Why won't you auto-expose? There we go. Now you can see the tear better. I'll probably drop that back up. Now, let's say you were a unscrupulous individual, and you wanted to make this stamp look rarer than it is. You could get you a pair of scissors and cut off the perfs and make it look like it is imperf. Though there are ways to detect that, because you probably won't be getting these quite right. Your lines are going to be a little off, and there are ways to measure that and whatnot. And expediters, people whose job it is to say, oh, that stamp's fake, will be able to spot you very quickly. Now, let me show you my favorite wrong button, stamp gauge. Bring that back up because it's a white background. Is Sonic Imagery Labs Precision US Specialty Multi-Gauge. And yes, even though it is a US specialty, I can still use my French stamp with it. And this is revision 5.1. I have no idea what they're up to, but it's 12 measuring devices in one. This is, well, when I bought it, it was like 20 bucks. And this is one of the most helpful tools and philately I have purchased outside of my stamp tongs. All right, so what have we got here? Everything backwards. What have we got here? Everything mirrored. What have we got here? We have a piece of clear plastic with writing on it. And it has everything from this for measuring. Like I said earlier, your stamp. If your lines aren't straight, come on, stamp. Use your tongs, JW. Well, I can line that up against this straight edge and say, oh, this line isn't straight. That's something funky going on here. Now, if you took the time to make this an imperforate, I believe you were wasting your time. But that's neither here nor there. Now, that's also a cool thing about this gauge. I can put the stamp under it. So now I can measure. See, the design is somewhere between, oh, let's start at 0. The design is a little more than 20 millimeters, although it does have a actual ruler here. Design being 22 millimeters wide. That is important for some issues. Now they've also got things like detecting grills. That was an anti-theft device. We'll talk about those later. Specialty gauge for the bureau issues. Who's a watch it to tell if something's rotary or flat press. More things to tell big holes and little holes and type A's and templates to look at, and a millimeter in diameters. So if you're trying to measure like a cancellation, like on this unit here, you can stick her down and say, oh yeah, I'm off camera. You can stick her down and say, oh yeah, that center mark there is 10 millimeters in diameter. I have not found a use for that, but for cancellation collectors, that'd be most important. But here, this is the stamp gauge perf gauge on this one, and it's a little different. In fact, many of your printed, cheaper printed perf gauges, like you would get in the back of a catalog, are going to have these dots. Unlike my metal one that had the little fake stamps on it. Anyway, by the way, that was a Unitrade postage stamp perforation gauge made in China by Unisafe. Anyway, now what we do here is we line up and you try to get all the dots to set nicely in those valleys, and that's like way too big. Let's take her down to, what is that? 14. 14 is a little too big as well, so let's take her down. And notice all these intermediate marks. They aren't dots, but you're trying to line up all the points where they cross. Like that right in the center of the valley, if you will. And that would tell you partials. This is 16. Oh, wow. 15? Well, we're getting closer at 14 and a half. Ooh, that's close. So probably a 13 and a half, somewhere in that range. Up 13. This is a perf 13 across the top. And it is a perf 13 across the side. That's also something I should mention. If across the top and across the side are the same, in the catalog, it will list one perf. Did I just... No, here's my catalog. It will list perf... let's see, where's an example? Sometimes it didn't even list perfs. And I'm just using my Mystic catalog here. Hey, here we go. Here's a perfect example. Coil stamps, oh, that's not a perfect example, but this is what I want. Perforated 11 by 10 and a half. The 11 is across the top or the bottom, and the 10 and a half would be across the side. So let's see, 720 would be this one here. So if you had a 3-cent Washington, purple, well, deep violet, I'm sorry, and it measured 11, perf gauge 11 across the top, and 10.5 across the side, you would probably have a 720. Oh, which is worth catalog of, well, Mystic says, 20 cents. Oh, actually, this 20 cents. Typically, catalogs don't list lower than 25 cents. All right. Oh, and here, coil stamps. Coil stamps, they are a little more interesting. It's the same way to measure them. You still stick them on here and check, like, there you go. There's a coil stamp. You saw the other stamps came in the big sheets or booklets. I believe my orchids here were considered a booklet. I think they're considered a booklet. And you notice they have perforations on 3 sides, at least 3 sides, sometimes just 2 sides, like the corner here. And there's some people who collect positions on these things as well. Ooh, let me hit the camera. As opposed to what would come on a sheet where everybody had 4 sides for the most part. At least all the internal ones had perfs on 4 sides. So if it has perfs on more than 2 sides, or 2 opposite, or 2 adjacent sides, not parallel sides, then it came from a booklet or a sheet. But if the stamp has, come on stamp, has perfs on this side and this side, or the top and bottom, this was a coil stamp. Where are my coils? There we go. Let's get rid of you and move my template out. Template. Here's a bunch of old Jeffersons. These are still on a coil. And notice there's an error here. There's a missing perf. As opposed to the error here, which is a blind perf. That is a perf with the hole still attached, or the chad. All you Floridians know what I'm talking about there. All right. But they would print these in long strips, and you'd coil them up and put them in a vending machine or whatever, and you would tear them off as you go. Now, this is a horizontal strip of stamps, or horizontal coil. They also made them vertical. No, you don't make a vertical coil by turning a horizontal 90 degrees. No, you print them different. But this is a tricky part. Horizontal horizontal coils are perforated vertically. Vertical coils are perforated horizontally. So when you read in your catalog, Jefferson Monument, I forget Scott number for this one too, but Scott number whatever, vertically perforated perf, was it probably 11? I haven't measured it, 10 or 11. Perf 10 vertical coil, or vertical. Perf 10 vertical. That means it's a horizontal coil, because the perfs are going vertical. So you won't say, oh, this is a rarity, because this is supposed to be a vertical coil, because the catalog says perf vertical. No, the perfs are vertical. The stamps are horizontal. All right. I'm hoping that made it thoroughly confusing for you. Anywho, I think that's good for today. Hey, and I had an España stamp out for. Well, I guess we didn't use it, but you would American stamp, Spanish stamp, French stamp. You'd measure the perfs all the same, die cut, rotary cut, die cut, rotary cut. What's the other one? And perfect. Now there's an argument over on perfect, whether it's perf 0 or perf 1, but we're not getting in there today. Turn on Benji there. All right, so that has been fun talking about perfs. There's probably a lot more, though I know there's a lot more. There's a world more. Things we didn't cover, things I don't know, things we didn't talk about, things we should have talked about. But I think that's going to do it for today as an introduction to perforation. And we'll probably bring it up again when we talk about counterfeits and whatnot. Oh, one more thing before we go. Perfs should be parallel with each other. So if I were to grab this, see, let's get one with a... My flag stamp here is a little clearer. So just using this as a straight edge, make sure it's straight. The perfs should line up, so, well, I guess die cuts aren't going to do as well, but they're going to be in line with each other for most issues, like Benjamin Franklin here. Come on. The die cuts are a little different, but you're going to find, like, if we put our point on that perf. All right, let's get her lined up. All right, got her lined up. 10 milliliter, we're on a perf. And we match... And we match a valley across. So they're roughly matching. Valleys and peaks, or sometimes valleys and valleys, peaks and peaks. But they're going to be... They're going to be a perf to a perf. Now, if you get one where it's center here, but you're halfway through the valley, not nice and even like we are here, if we adjust our, so we're actually lined up with the design. If you get them like way off, then there's something wrong about the stamp. It may have been reperforated. So in general, they're going to be they're going to line up with each other. All right. And with that, we're really going to call it a day. I have been JW608. These have been stamps. Man, I need a better outro. Anywho, I'll see y'all later.